Vehicle maintenance is not complicated, but it is misunderstood. Most modern vehicles do not fail suddenly. They fail gradually, through wear, heat, friction, and neglect. Every moving component in a vehicle is designed with a service life. Fluids degrade, rubber hardens and cracks, metal wears down under repeated stress. None of this is unexpected. What determines whether a vehicle lasts 150,000 miles or 300,000 miles is not luck. It is maintenance behavior. According to data from AAA, over 1/3 of roadside breakdowns are caused by preventable maintenance issues, including battery failure, tire problems, cooling system neglect, and lack of basic inspections. These failures are not mysterious. They follow predictable patterns. For example, engine oil serves 3 primary functions: lubrication, cooling contaminant removal. As oil degrades, it loses viscosity and its ability to suspend debris. This increases friction and heat inside the engine. Excess heat accelerates wear. Wear shortens engine life. This is not opinion. It is mechanical reality. The same principle applies to brakes. Brake pads are designed to wear. That is their purpose. When they are ignored, wear transfers from inexpensive pads to expensive rotors and calipers. A routine brake service costs hundreds. A neglected brake system can cost thousands, or fail when stopping is critical. Tires follow the same logic. Tire tread depth directly affects traction, braking distance, and hydroplaning resistance. Studies from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration show that worn tires significantly increase stopping distance on wet roads. At highway speeds, that difference can be the margin between stopping safely and a collision. Maintenance failures are not just financial. They are safety risks. Vehicle neglect increases the likelihood of breakdowns in dangerous locations, loss of control, and preventable accidents. This affects not just the driver, but passengers and others on the road. This is where maintenance becomes a responsibility issue. A forged mind recognizes that ownership includes upkeep. Owning a vehicle is not just about transportation. It is about managing a machine that weighs several thousand pounds, travels at high speeds, and shares space with other people. Maintenance is risk management. Preventive maintenance exists to shift problems from emergencies to scheduled decisions. When maintenance is handled early, costs are lower, downtime is reduced, safety margins are higher, stress is minimized. When maintenance is ignored, failures happen at the worst times, repairs cost more. Safety decreases, control is lost. This is not about being mechanically inclined. It is about standards. A forged mind does not wait for systems to fail before acting. It understands that responsibility means addressing problems while they are small, quiet, and manageable. Maintenance discipline reflects a broader mindset, the ability to notice issues early. The willingness to act before inconvenience becomes crisis. The habit of protecting long-term function over short-term comfort. Men who maintain their vehicles properly tend to carry the same mindset into other areas of life. They plan, they inspect, they correct early. They do not live reactively. Vehicle maintenance is one of the clearest examples of discipline producing tangible results. You either pay a little, regularly, or a lot, unexpectedly. The choice is not technical. It is behavioral. In the next section, we'll break down preventive maintenance versus breakdown culture, and why reacting to problems after failure costs more money, more time, and more stress than handling them early. Stay steady. Section 2. Preventive maintenance versus breakdown culture. Most vehicle problems don't begin as emergencies. They begin as ignored warnings. Preventive maintenance exists because mechanical systems fail in predictable ways. Heat, friction, vibration, and contamination slowly degrade components over time. Engineers design service intervals specifically to interrupt this process before damage occurs. Breakdown culture ignores this reality. It treats maintenance as optional until failure forces action. From a data standpoint, this approach is costly. AAA estimates that routine preventive maintenance can reduce repair costs by 30 to 50% over the life of a vehicle. In contrast, emergency repairs often cost 2 to 3 times more than scheduled service because damage has already spread beyond the original component. This difference matters. A $60 oil change prevents a $6,000 engine failure. A $200 brake service prevents a $1,200 rotor and caliper replacement. A $120 battery replacement prevents a tow, missed work, and lost income. Preventive maintenance is not about perfection. It is about interrupting wear before it compounds. Breakdown culture, on the other hand, is reactive. It waits for warning lights to be ignored, noises to become severe, performance to degrade noticeably. By the time a vehicle forces attention, the repair is no longer simple. Mechanical systems do not self-correct. They deteriorate faster once damage begins. For example, worn engine oil accelerates bearing wear. Worn bearings increase friction. Increased friction generates heat. Heat accelerates oil breakdown even further. This creates a feedback loop. The same is true with cooling systems. Low coolant levels reduce heat transfer. Engines run hotter. Seals degrade. Hoses weaken. What started as a low-cost fluid issue becomes a failed water pump or blown head gasket. Preventive maintenance breaks these loops early. That is its entire purpose. Another important distinction is predictability. Scheduled maintenance allows control. You choose the time. You plan the cost. You avoid downtime. Breakdowns remove control. They happen. During work on the highway. In bad weather. When money is tight. According to transportation safety studies, vehicle breakdowns significantly increase roadside accident risk, especially on high-speed roads and at night. A disabled vehicle is not just an inconvenience, it is a hazard. Preventive maintenance reduces exposure to that risk. This is where responsibility enters the conversation. Maintaining a vehicle is not only about protecting the machine, it is about protecting your ability to get to work, your passengers, other drivers, your financial stability. A forged mind understands that reacting to problems is more stressful than preventing them. Breakdown culture often hides behind excuses. I didn't have time. It was running fine. I was waiting for it to get worse. But mechanical wear does not wait for convenience. Maintenance delayed is maintenance multiplied. Preventive maintenance requires planning. Planning requires discipline. This is why maintenance habits mirror life habits. Men who handle problems early experience fewer crises. Men who ignore small issues live in constant reaction mode. Vehicle ownership exposes this pattern clearly because the consequences are immediate and measurable. Preventive maintenance rewards consistency. Breakdown culture punishes neglect. A forged mind chooses the former. Not because it enjoys maintenance, but because it values control. Control over time. Control over cost. Control over safety. In the next section, we'll get specific and practical by breaking down oil, fluids, and engine longevity, including what matters, what doesn't, and how small habits dramatically extend the life of your vehicle. Stay steady. Section 3. Oil, fluids, and engine longevity. Engines fail for predictable reasons. The most common causes are not design flaws or bad luck. They are heat, friction, and contamination. Oil and fluids exist to control those three forces. When they are neglected, engines do exactly what physics dictates. They wear out faster. Start with engine oil. Engine oil performs three critical functions: lubricates moving parts to reduce friction, carries heat away from internal components, suspends contaminants so they don't grind against metal surfaces. Over time, oil breaks down. Heat causes viscosity loss. Combustion creates acids and debris. Additives are consumed. As oil degrades, it loses its ability to protect. Studies in tribology, the science of friction and wear, show that inadequate lubrication dramatically increases metal-to-metal contact. This accelerates bearing wear, piston ring damage, and camshaft degradation. This is why oil change intervals matter. Modern vehicles typically recommend oil changes between 5,000 and 10,000 miles, depending on engine design and oil type. However, severe service, frequent short trips, towing, stop-and-go traffic, extreme temperatures, shortens oil life significantly. Many working men fall into the severe service category whether they realize it or not. Ignoring this does not save money. It delays cost until it multiplies. An engine replacement can exceed $5,000 to $10,000. Routine oil changes cost a fraction of that. Oil neglect is one of the fastest ways to destroy an otherwise reliable engine. Next is coolant. Coolant does more than prevent freezing. It regulates engine temperature, prevents corrosion, and protects seals and gaskets. Over time, coolant becomes acidic and loses its corrosion inhibitors. This leads to internal corrosion in radiators, heater cores, and engine passages. According to automotive engineering data, neglected coolant is a leading contributor to overheating water pump failure, head gasket damage. Coolant service intervals typically range from 30,000 to 100,000 miles, depending on the type used. Skipping this maintenance risks catastrophic failure. Transmission fluid is another commonly ignored component. Automatic transmissions rely on fluid for hydraulic pressure, lubrication, cooling. As transmission fluid degrades, it loses friction modifiers and heat resistance. This leads to slipping, harsh shifts, and internal clutch wear. Despite myths about lifetime fluid, transmission manufacturers still specify service intervals, often between 30,000 and 60,000 miles under real-world conditions. Transmission repairs are among the most expensive vehicle failures, often costing $3,000 to $6,000 or more. Fluid service exists to prevent this. Brake fluid is also frequently overlooked. Brake fluid absorbs moisture over time, which lowers its boiling point and promotes internal corrosion. This reduces braking performance and can cause brake system failure under heavy use. Most manufacturers recommend brake fluid replacement every 2 to 3 years, regardless of mileage. Power steering fluid, differential fluid, and transfer case fluid follow similar logic. They all serve mechanical systems under load. They all degrade. They all fail quietly before they fail loudly. A forged mind does not wait for loud failure. It respects systems that work silently when maintained. This is where maintenance becomes more than mechanical. It becomes a mindset. Changing oil and servicing fluids is not about loving cars. It is about understanding cause and effect. Machines don't negotiate. They don't forgive neglect. They respond exactly to how they are treated. Men who take care of fluids tend to take care of fundamentals elsewhere. They handle small tasks regularly instead of large crises occasionally. They don't need reminders from failure. They act before consequences force them to. Maintaining fluids is a quiet form of discipline. No recognition, no excitement. Just extended life, reduced risk, and predictable performance. That's the payoff. In the next section, we'll move from engine longevity to tires, brakes, and safety-critical systems, the components that determine whether your vehicle can stop, steer, and protect you when it matters most. Stay steady. Section 4. Tires, brakes, and safety-critical systems. If engine maintenance determines how long a vehicle lasts, tires and brakes determine whether you survive an emergency. These systems are not optional. They are not comfort features. They are safety critical, and they fail in predictable ways. Start with tires. Tires are the only part of your vehicle that actually touches the road. Each tire has a contact patch roughly the size of your hand. All acceleration, steering, and braking forces pass through that small area. Tire tread depth directly affects traction. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, worn tires significantly increase stopping distance on wet roads and are a contributing factor in thousands of accidents each year. At highway speeds, the difference between new tires and tires worn near the legal limit can be dozens of feet in braking distance. That distance is not abstract. It is the difference between stopping safely and impact. Tires also degrade over time even if tread looks acceptable. Rubber hardens with age due to heat cycles and ozone exposure. Most manufacturers recommend replacing tires every 6 years, regardless of mileage, because aged rubber loses grip even if tread remains. Underinflation is another major issue. Studies show that tires underinflated by as little as 10 to 15 psi generate excess heat, reduce fuel efficiency, and increase the risk of blowouts. Heat buildup is one of the primary causes of tire failure at speed. Tire pressure is not about convenience. It is about stability and control. Now, brakes. Brake systems are designed around controlled friction. Brake pads wear down by design. Rotors absorb heat. Brake fluid transfers force. When any part of this system is neglected, braking performance declines. According to automotive safety studies, worn brake pads increase stopping distance and can cause uneven braking, pulling, or vibration. When pads wear too far, metal contacts metal, damaging rotors and calipers. This turns a routine service into a major repair. Brake fluid adds another layer of risk. Brake fluid absorbs moisture over time, which lowers its boiling point. Under heavy braking, moisture-contaminated fluid can boil, creating vapor that compresses instead of transmitting force. This leads to brake fade or sudden loss of braking under stress. Manufacturers typically recommend brake fluid replacement every 2 to 3 years for this reason. Steering and suspension systems also fall into the safety category. Worn ball joints, tie rods, shocks, and bushings affect vehicle control. They reduce tire contact with the road, increase stopping distance, and compromise steering precision. Studies show that worn suspension components increase stopping distance and reduce stability during evasive maneuvers. These failures often develop quietly. A forged mind does not wait for violent symptoms. It listens for changes. Noise, vibration, pulling, uneven tire wear. These are not annoyances, they are warnings. Safety systems fail gradually until they fail suddenly. This is where discipline matters. Ignoring safety-critical maintenance is not a personal risk only. It puts passengers, other drivers, and pedestrians at risk. A forged mind understands that responsibility extends beyond convenience. Maintaining tires and brakes is not about pride, it is about accountability. Accountability for a machine that can cause serious harm if neglected. This is also where routine inspections matter. Tire pressure checks. Visual tread inspection, brake inspections during oil changes. These small actions prevent major consequences. Men who maintain safety systems early are not cautious. They are prepared. They understand that control is earned through upkeep. You do not rise to the occasion in an emergency. You fall back on the condition of your equipment. In the next section, we'll cover warning signs men ignore until it's expensive. The noises, lights, and behaviors that signal problems early, long before breakdown or danger forces attention. Stay steady. Section 5. Warning signs. Men ignore until it's expensive. Vehicles rarely fail without warning. They signal problems early, often quietly, long before a breakdown or safety issue forces attention. Most expensive repairs begin as inexpensive warnings. The difference between a minor repair and a major failure is usually time, not complexity. One of the most ignored warning signs is the check engine light. Modern vehicles use onboard diagnostics to monitor engine performance, emissions, and sensor function. When the check engine light illuminates, it means the system has detected a fault outside normal parameters. Contrary to popular belief, this light does not mean ignore until it breaks. Studies from automotive service data show that driving with unresolved engine fault codes increases the likelihood of secondary damage. For example, a failing oxygen sensor can cause incorrect fuel mixtures, which over time damages catalytic converters, turning a small repair into a four-figure expense. The light is a request for attention, not a suggestion. Another commonly ignored signal is unusual noise. Squealing brakes, grinding sounds, knocking or ticking from the engine, whining from the transmission or steering. These sounds exist because parts are no longer operating within normal tolerances. Brake squeal often means pads are near the end of their service life. Ignoring it allows pads to wear down to metal, damaging rotors and calipers. Engine knocking can indicate oil starvation, detonation, or bearing wear. Continued operation accelerates internal damage. Noises are early warnings. Silence after failure is the expensive part. Vibration is another overlooked indicator. Steering wheel vibration often signals tire imbalance, worn suspension components, or alignment issues. Left unchecked, vibration accelerates tire wear and stresses steering components. Brake pedal pulsation usually indicates warped rotors caused by excessive heat. Addressing this early prevents further damage. Vibration is not just discomfort, it is imbalance. Leaks are another sign men tend to dismiss. Oil spots on the ground, coolant residue, transmission fluid seepage. Small leaks often come from aging seals or gaskets. When ignored, they lead to low fluid levels, overheating, and component failure. According to automotive reliability data, fluid loss is a leading contributor to engine and transmission damage. Fluids are lifelines. Loss of fluid is loss of protection. Dashboard warning lights beyond the check engine light are also frequently misunderstood. Oil pressure lights indicate insufficient lubrication. Driving with low oil pressure can destroy an engine in minutes. Temperature warning lights indicate overheating. Overheating can warp cylinder heads and damage head gaskets, repairs that cost thousands. These lights are not alerts for later. They are stop now warnings. Another ignored sign is declining performance. Poor acceleration, reduced fuel economy, rough idling, hard starts. These symptoms often indicate fuel system issues, ignition problems, or sensor failures. Addressed early, these are manageable repairs. Ignored, they compound. A forged mind pays attention to patterns. One strange noise may not be urgent. Repeated symptoms are. Vehicles communicate through changes in behavior. Men who ignore these signs usually do so for the same reasons: lack of time, cost avoidance, optimism bias. But delaying attention does not reduce cost. It concentrates it. The discipline required here is awareness and action, not panic. inspection, diagnosis, correction. Ignoring warning signs is not toughness. It is avoidance. A forged mind does not wait for failure to force responsibility. It acts when the cost is low and the risk is manageable. Addressing warning signs early preserves control. Control over money. Control over safety. Control over time. In the next section, we'll break this discipline down into monthly, quarterly, and annual maintenance actions. Simple routines that prevent nearly all of the problems just discussed. Stay steady. Section 6. What to do. Monthly, quarterly, and annually. Vehicle maintenance becomes overwhelming when it feels undefined. Most men don't ignore maintenance intentionally. They ignore it because they don't know when to act. The solution is not expertise, it is structure. Mechanical systems respond best to routine attention. Breaking maintenance into predictable intervals turns responsibility into habit. Start with monthly checks. Once a month, or every few thousand miles, you should inspect the basics. Tire pressure is the first priority. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, properly inflated tires improve fuel efficiency, handling, and tire life. Underinflated tires generate excess heat, which accelerates wear and increases blowout risk. Checking tire pressure takes minutes and prevents expensive failures. Next is fluid levels. Engine oil, coolant, brake fluid, power steering fluid, and windshield washer fluid should be visually checked. Low fluid levels indicate leaks or consumption that need attention. Running low on oil or coolant is one of the fastest ways to cause irreversible damage. Lights and visibility are also part of monthly checks. Headlights, brake lights, turn signals, and wipers affect safety directly. Visibility and signaling failures contribute to preventable accidents, especially at night and in bad weather. These checks require no tools and minimal effort. They are discipline in its simplest form. Quarterly maintenance focuses on wear items. Oil changes typically fall into this category depending on mileage and driving conditions. For many working men, oil changes every 5,000 miles are a safe baseline, especially under severe service conditions. Tire tread depth should also be inspected quarterly. Uneven wear often signals alignment or suspension issues that, if corrected early, prevent premature tire replacement. Brake inspections are commonly performed during oil changes. Catching brake pad wear early prevents rotor damage and maintains stopping performance. Battery condition should also be assessed. According to AAA, battery failure is one of the leading causes of roadside breakdowns. Most batteries last 3 to 5 years, but extreme temperatures shorten lifespan. Catching a weak battery early prevents towing, missed work, and inconvenience. Annual maintenance addresses long-term system health. This includes fluid services such as brake fluid replacement, coolant inspection or replacement depending on interval, and transmission service when recommended by the manufacturer. Suspension and steering components should be inspected annually for wear, looseness, or leaks. Worn components reduce vehicle control and increase tire wear. Belts and hoses also fall into this category. Rubber degrades over time due to heat and age. Cracked belts or swollen hoses often fail without warning. Replacing them proactively is cheaper than dealing with overheating or loss of accessory systems. Air filters, both engine and cabin, should be replaced annually or as needed. Dirty filters reduce engine efficiency and cabin air quality. This structure removes guesswork. Maintenance is no longer reactive. It becomes scheduled. A forged mind values predictability. When maintenance is routine, it stops being stressful. Costs are planned. Downtime is minimized. Failures become rare. This mirrors discipline in other areas of life. Small actions done consistently prevent large problems later. Men who operate on routines experience fewer crises, not because they are lucky, because they reduce exposure to risk. You don't need to remember everything. You need a system. Monthly checks maintain awareness. Quarterly service controls wear. Annual inspections protect longevity. This approach keeps vehicles reliable and keeps responsibility manageable. In the next section, we'll talk about when to do maintenance yourself and when to pay a professional, and how to make that decision rationally instead of emotionally. Stay steady. Section 7. When to DIY versus when to pay a professional. One of the most common mistakes men make with vehicle maintenance is confusing independence with capability. Doing everything yourself is not discipline. Knowing what to handle personally and what to delegate is. Modern vehicles are complex systems. Some maintenance tasks are simple and low risk. Others involve safety-critical components, specialized tools, or diagnostic expertise. A forged mind makes this distinction clearly. Start with what is appropriate for DIY. Basic maintenance tasks such as oil changes, air filter replacement, cabin filters, battery replacement, wiper blades, and checking fluid levels are low risk and well documented. These tasks require minimal tools and provide immediate feedback if something is wrong. Performing these yourself saves money and increases familiarity with your vehicle. Familiarity matters. Men who regularly inspect their vehicles are more likely to notice early warning signs, leaks, unusual wear, loose components, before failure occurs. This awareness is a form of control. However, not all DIY work is equal. Brakes, suspension, steering, and drivetrain components directly affect safety. Mistakes in these systems can lead to loss of control, accidents, or severe injury. Automotive safety data shows that improper repairs increase the likelihood of system failure under stress. Torque specifications, component alignment, and hydraulic systems are not forgiving. If you lack the tools, space, or confidence to verify your work, it is not the place to experiment. Paying a professional is not weakness. It is risk management. Time is another factor. DIY work often costs less in money but more in time. For working men, lost time may exceed the cost savings, especially if mistakes lead to rework. A forged mind calculates total cost, not just parts. Another important factor is diagnostics. Modern vehicles rely heavily on electronic systems. Fault codes, sensor data, and software diagnostics require equipment and experience. Guessing leads to parts swapping, wasted money, and unresolved problems. Professionals earn their value in accuracy. Knowing when to seek expertise prevents compounding mistakes. There is also a psychological element. Some men delay maintenance because they feel they should fix it themselves and don't want to admit limits. This delay turns manageable problems into expensive failures. Discipline means acting promptly, not proving capability. DIY is most effective when the task is well understood. The risk of failure is low. The cost of error is manageable. Professional service is appropriate when safety systems are involved. Specialized tools are required. Diagnosis is uncertain. Time constraints are real. A forged mind does not cling to pride. It protects outcomes. Maintaining a vehicle responsibly means ensuring the work is done correctly, regardless of who does it. This mindset mirrors other areas of life. Strong men do not do everything themselves. They do what they should and ensure the rest is handled properly. In the final section, we'll pull everything together and frame maintaining what you own as self-respect. Because upkeep reflects how seriously you take responsibility for your life and those who depend on you. Stay steady. Section 8. Maintaining what you own as self-respect. Maintenance is not about vehicles. Vehicles simply make the principle visible. Everything you own exists on a timeline of wear. Heat, stress, and use slowly degrade systems, whether you pay attention or not. The only question is whether decay is managed deliberately or allowed to compound. Vehicles punish neglect quickly. That's why they're such an honest teacher. From a practical standpoint, maintaining your vehicle protects your ability to work, your safety, your finances, the people who rely on you. Transportation failure is not a small inconvenience for working men. It can mean missed shifts, lost income, safety risk, or forced debt. Preventive maintenance reduces all of that. But the deeper value is not mechanical, it's psychological. Men who maintain what they own operate differently. They don't wait for systems to fail before acting. They don't ignore small problems because they're inconvenient. They don't confuse neglect with toughness. Research in behavioral psychology shows that consistent maintenance behaviors correlate with higher levels of conscientiousness, a trait strongly associated with reliability, long-term success, and risk avoidance. This trait shows up everywhere: in finances, in health, in relationships, in work performance. Maintaining your vehicle reinforces a standard. It trains you to notice early signs of wear. It trains you to act before consequences force you. It builds respect for systems that support your life. This is not obsession, it's stewardship. You don't maintain equipment because you love maintenance. You maintain it because neglect always costs more later. This mindset shifts how you see responsibility. You stop reacting. You start managing. You stop waiting for problems to demand attention. You address them while they're quiet. Vehicles make this obvious because the feedback is immediate. Skip maintenance long enough, and the consequences arrive without debate. This clarity is valuable. A forged mind takes the lesson and applies it broadly. You check systems regularly. You plan ahead. You don't gamble with safety. Self-respect is not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up in equipment that works, finances that aren't constantly strained, fewer emergencies, less stress under pressure. Maintaining what you own is a form of discipline that protects your future. It allows you to show up reliably, at work, at home, on the road. And reliability is one of the strongest forms of masculinity. Not aggression, not bravado, consistency. If you take one thing from this guide, let it be this: you don't rise to the moment when something goes wrong. You fall back on the condition of what you've maintained. That applies to machines, and it applies to life. This is Forged Mind. Stay steady,